Hello, good morning, Year 7, and welcome to your eighth lesson, eighth distance learning lesson, and your third lesson on, or really on the Black Death. So the first lesson looked at the connections between the Black Death and the Silk Road and how it spread from Asia right up into Europe. We then looked at how the mass devastation, the unprecedented death toll led to major social changes in Europe. It led to the end of the feudal system, which is a really big moment in the history of Europe because it started to introduce new ways of seeing society and the rest of the world, and it created new classes that began to change the future of that part of the world. And today, what we're going to look at is one of the tools that was available to people from that time. And that was medicine. It is today, it was then, but we like to think that we have the best knowledge about medicine, and we definitely wouldn't live in another time. But do we know exactly how people practice medicine? How bad was it? Or was it worse than we thought? Was it better than we thought? We'll have a think about that this lesson. To start off with, I'd like you to have a look at the source in the center of this slide. What you see is a man lying in bed, sort of upright with a pillow behind his head, and then another man with a distinctively shaved scalp. It was called a tonsure, if you wanted to know, Tonsure. That sort of identifies him as a religious man, perhaps a monk. And he seems to be holding a glass beaker full of something. Right? What is happening there? Right? I've given you probably enough to answer the first challenge question. I think you should all really attempt the more challenging question, which is what can we learn from source A about medieval medicine? And then the mega challenge, how useful is this source to historians studying medieval medicine? What don't we learn? So if this was the only source that we had for trying to understand what medicine was like in the medieval ages, would it be useful? Would it be enough? Or what is it lacking? So that's what really you'd include in the mega challenge question. So try the more challenging or the mega challenging, and or try both if you like. Pause the video, complete your answer, and then resume when you're ready. Okay, so you should have done a bit of description there. How useful is the source? Maybe talking about what it includes, what it doesn't include. It doesn't include surgery, for instance. You can't see any blood. There's a lot of ailments there that don't seem to be addressed. But what the man is doing here, just to clarify to you, is he is holding a jar or vase or beaker of his patient's urine. This was perhaps the most common way for doctors in the medieval period to diagnose their patients. And what they would do is they would look at it for its color, its consistency, and this is going to be quite disgusting. They would often taste it. Now you might think to yourself, ew, why would you be tasting your sick patient's urine? Well, sometimes it had actually no use or benefit, but other times, and this was something that we would understand today, they would taste it for, if a patient was ill, they would taste it for its sweetness. Now, if somebody has very sweet urine, they would have what doctors in the medieval period called the honey sickness. And you will know the honey sickness as diabetes. And if you're diabetic and your body can't produce insulin, it can't process sugar, it actually is, ejected from your body via the urine. And so that's how one way they would know. Another way they'd know is by pouring some of your urine out in outside, and if the ants came to it, then you had a lot of sugar in your urine. Now, in terms of the actual effective sort of treatment that they could offer for diabetes, it wasn't as good as what we have today, but they did offer diet-based treatments which were moderately successful in controlling the disease. All right. So what I want you to do now is I want you to open up this file. It will be in the week 8 folder. So go into the week 8 folder. It's called L8 reading. I want you to have a read through of that. It's 2 pages, but it's not as long as it looks. It's in quite big font. And then I want you to try one of the 3 different activities. Only one, remember. Yeah. this. So one is to either create a diary entry of a rich sick person in the 14th century. Your family have called in a doctor and a wise woman. What are you going to write in that diary entry? Another one is your family have called in two different doctors, one who prefers Greek medicine and one who prefers Latin, as well as a clergyman and a wise woman. What are you going to write in your diary entry there? What's going on? What kind of arguments, debates are being had there? And finally, the mega challenging task, you only have to do one of these, remember. Your family have taken you to a monastery. You've been visited by a wise woman. A wise woman is, another word for a wise woman would be a white witch. This is a sort of local woman who lives in a village who's developed a sort of folk knowledge of effective cures and treatments. Some more effective than others. They would usually have a very good understanding of the sort of herbs and plants that were quite effective at curing some ailments and control. So they knew some plants that were good for stopping infections, other plants which were good for stomach ailments, things like that. So you've been visited by a wise woman, but you want to be treated by a Greek or Latin influenced physician. In your diary entry, you must explain your reasoning for why you wanted to be treated by a Greek or Latin educated doctor, physician, and include in your diary entry why you would want them over a wise woman. Okay, so all the information you need should be in there. If not, there will be a lot of information available online. And that's it for today. So those are your two activities this lesson. If you want, you can move on to this task here, where you've got 3 different sources. And you can just answer this question in your books along with the rest of the task. That is, what can we learn about medieval beliefs on the cause of illness from these 3 sources? Right? Okay, good luck.